Coming up on the Paper Talk today, we've been linked with another midfielder, but this is a new one, so let's find out who it is. Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and it's a little bit nippy. You might need your parkers. Loads of stories to get through, so we will crack on. Before we do, though, make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. The next stop is 850,000 subscribers, and with your support, yes, yo, we can get there. There's been a couple of stories doing the rounds over the weekend that have made us raise our eyebrows. We'll get to Manchester United's win in a minute. Obviously, another win under Michael Carrick and what that means for the season. And we'll also look at the table and other stuff. But I want to talk a little bit about transfers. Now, there was a story in the Telegraph. Mike McGrath, who's been on the channel, friend of the channel, who broke this story about United being in for Sandro Tonali. Now, this is quite a new one. I don't think we've been linked with him before, and certainly not in the mainstream media anyway. Nothing sort of that makes you think this could happen. Now, Mike is a pretty reliable journalist, I think it's safe to say, and him going big on it in the Telegraph makes you think there could be something in it. Now, Manchester United looking at the 25-year-old midfielder as a potential transfer in the summer. Now, it's not going to be easy to try and get anyone from Newcastle. They've obviously got huge amounts of money. They haven't really got a good relationship with Manchester United, if you look at the Dan Ashworth saga as an example of that. However, there is a possibility that United could get Tonali. Newcastle at the minute sit 12th in the Premier League table. His agent was making a few noises earlier on last week about the potential move or him moving from St James's, and it was one of those things where you're kind of saying, well, he's happy where he is, but we'll sort of see what goes on. You're thinking, well, if he's happy, you don't need to mention what's going to go on because he'll stay where he is. However, Newcastle might not have Champions League football next season. This is why I was getting to the point about, or this is why I was making the point about them being 12th. I think the 10 points off 5th. Now, 5th could be Champions League football. It might not be, we don't know. I think they're about 11 points off 4th, is it? So they're not sort of out of it, but they're not looking that great when it comes to qualifying for the Champions League because you're still bottom half of the table. Now, they could qualify for the Champions League if they win it. However, that's not going to be easy, and I don't think anyone expects Newcastle United to win the Champions League. No disrespect to them, but let's be real. They have got a playoff game. I think they're playing, is it Qarabag? I'm probably pronouncing that completely wrong. The team from Azerbaijan. That's a relatively easy game, if there are any easy games in the Champions League. This is a team that got beat 6-0, I think, off Liverpool a couple of months ago. So you'd expect them to be able to beat them and go through that playoff into the knockout stages proper. However, even if they do, they're still not going to be one of the favourites to win the competition. So if it's dependent on Newcastle getting Champions League football next season, it isn't looking too great for Newcastle to keep hold of Tonali. It might not be. He might end up staying anyway. He might be happy at St James's, or Newcastle United could play hardball for a player that I think cost around 70 million euros, 55 million quid-ish. I think at the time he was one of the most, if not the most expensive Italian transfers ever, or transfers from the Italian league ever. So if you want him, and you're going to buy him off a club who've got a lot of money, who don't want to sell him, who did pay a lot of money for him, you're probably going to have to break the bank to get him. I think you're probably looking, in my opinion, for what it's worth, about 80 million. You may disagree. Get involved in the chat in the comments and let us know what you think. We've been linked quite heavily with the likes of Adam Wharton, with the likes of Carlos Baleba, with the likes of Elliot Anderson. We spoke to Chris Wheeler end of last week when he mentioned all those names, and there's no surprises there. We know about that. We know we're linked with these players. However, Tonali is a new name that's coming in. He is a midfielder, a little bit more perhaps box-to-box than some of those midfielders, though he can play as a deep player. I think in Italy they called him a regista. Is that what you call him? I don't know anything. However, he can be a little bit more box-to-box. He can be deep-lying. He does have certain facets to his game that you would imagine could fit right in here at Old Trafford, especially as we all know we're going to lose Casemiro. We're probably going to lose Manuel Ugarte as well. So you're going to lose 2 midfielders. You need to bring in my opinion, at least 2, probably 3. I just don't think that's going to happen. But if you're going to lose 2 midfielders and you're going to have Champions League football, hopefully next season, or at least European football, you're probably going to need more midfielders than you've got right now. So I think 2 in, 2 out doesn't cut the mustard. However, can United afford to bring in 3 midfielders? Probably not. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe someone like Sekakone can come back from his loan move. I think he's is it Lausanne he's at? He can come back and sort of be an option for the next manager. I'll get to the managerial news in a minute. We'll have to wait and see. One midfielder who United have been linked with, sort of, is Cole Palmer. Now, this was doing the rounds, wasn't it, a couple of weeks ago, where there was these rumours and reports, and I use the word report lightly, that Cole Palmer could come to Manchester United. Apparently, he was a bit homesick living in that there London. So, There was talk of him coming back to Manchester. He is a Mancunian. I think he's Wythenshawe, is he? And obviously was at City. It doesn't look like he could go back to City, so everyone's saying, well, he could come to Manchester United. Now, he scored a hat-trick at the weekend. I think that's his third first-half hat-trick. I think he's broke the record for that. I think he got a hat-trick against Wolves. Now, 2 of them were penalties, and I'm not knocking that, because scoring penalties isn't easy. I think he scored, out of the 44 Premier League goals he scored, I think 17 of them have been penalties, something like that anyway. So he is very proficient when it comes to scoring penalties. There's sort of him maybe coming into Old Trafford. I think Bruno commented on one of his posts saying what a player or something, so everyone's looking at it going, oh yeah, Agent Bruno. You know, people like to do that, like he's commented on his Instagram, now he's his agent trying to get him to Old Trafford. Could Cole Palmer end up at Manchester United? I don't see why not. Would it be in the summer? I doubt it. I don't see it happening anytime soon. I think if we had to get Cole Palmer, it is going to be maybe in a few years. He signed a 9-year deal. I don't see him coming to Old Trafford anytime soon, but I think in the future, that could happen. He is a Mancunian, he might well come back to Manchester, and also he is a Manchester United fan, and you never know what happens at Chelsea. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. I think it's one of those transfers where you go, we'll keep an eye on it. Maybe one day he ends up at Manchester United, but I don't think it's going to be in the summer, unfortunately. However, watch this space. Stranger things have happened. You never know. I think if he did come, it would be as a replacement for Bruno Fernandes. If that can even happen. I don't want to see Bruno Fernandes go anywhere, and I think at the weekend you got a reminder of just how important and essential Bruno Fernandes is to this team. Me and Steve spoke about this on Steve's review after the Spurs game, and we were both saying how we need to keep hold of Bruno Fernandes, and I think Manchester United should be looking at a title challenge next season, and if you're going to have a title challenge, you need Bruno Fernandes in your team to do that. I think losing him would be a massive blow to our attempts to try and go for the title next season. I'm not saying we can win the title next season. I think it's probably a season too soon, but I certainly think we should be having those thoughts, and that should be the aspiration, so at least be involved in that conversation, especially if you finish in the top 4 this season, which United are looking quite comfortable to doing, with the 4 wins we've had on the spin, with the fact as well that Liverpool have tailed off. Liverpool now, after that defeat to Manchester City yesterday, I think, they 5 points behind us or something, which, considering they won the title last season and we finished 15th, is absolutely shocking. And I think it was Adam Crafton did a tweet where he says, I think Liverpool have got fewer points after 25 games in this title defence than we had under David Moyes in a title defence that was labelled the worst title defence in history. Well, Liverpool are doing their best to improve on that, if you can say that, by getting even fewer points. I think Leicester had the official worst title defence ever, but it hasn't been a good season for Liverpool. It's a bit annoying that City won, but you can still find time to laugh at Liverpool. There's enough there's enough space to do those things. And yeah, they're having a bit of a shocker when it comes to their title defence, and long may that continue. In other news as well, when it comes to Michael Carrick and the future of Manchester United, who's going to be the permanent manager, Gary Neville was speaking about this on his podcast. He mentioned the fact that he had spoke to people at the club, and they began the process already of looking for the next manager, which you would expect them to do. You'd expect Manchester United to have a shortlist. You'd expect them to be looking at managers. The problem that United have got is that most of the managers we link with have got jobs. So Thomas Tuchel is managing England. We don't know what's going to happen in the summer, what happens with England. England could flop in a World Cup, and all of a sudden, his sort of star may dim slightly. England may win the World Cup, and he could be in demand, and everyone could want him, and he might want to go out on a high, so he might want to leave the England setup, and then United might go, well, look, he's just won the World Cup. He's obviously a very good club manager as well. He wants to leave England. He's ticking all those boxes. Julian Nagelsmann's another one who's in a job. Is he going to come to Manchester United at the minute? We don't know. Luis Enrique's in a job, but he's someone who has been linked with a move. Apparently he's not going to stay at PSG. If he doesn't stay at PSG, he seems to be the sort of the preferred choice for a lot of people who don't think Michael Carrick should be given the job permanently. However, if this run continues, and it's a big if Michael Carrick gets us Champions League football, then there's going to be a clamour from a lot of Manchester United fans, probably me included, to give him the job permanently. And unless you've got someone like a Luis Enrique right there who's willing and able to come to Manchester United, then why wouldn't you want to give it Michael Carrick if he has achieved the things that you wanted him to achieve in getting us Champions League football, winning a load of football matches and bringing the good times back to Old Trafford? I'm going to leave it there. We're going to be back later on today with the Paddock podcast. Don't forget as well, we've got all the post-match reviews from the other day, from that win over Spurs. You've got Stephen Alson, you've got the live review as well. You can go and check all that stuff out. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe, and you are checking out the merchandise. There's a link in the description to the merch. I've been Jay Marty outside a pretty cold Old Trafford. Thanks for watching.